We are at time. Make it 7 o'clock, Philip.
Yes.
Right, good evening, members. Good evening to those members that have dialed in remotely and the officers. We've got Alison Blake, we've got Phil Wilson who are remotely from their offices. I can't, we've got Darren Wells from Grant Thornton. Are you there, Darren?
Good evening. Yes.
Good evening. Good evening, Alison.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening, Phil.
Good evening, Chair.
Right, looks like we're all where we should be. Right. Well, welcome to this hybrid audit committee meeting, including any visitor members attending remotely, members of the public. I can't see any up on the screen, so it's probably just those members that are the officers that are there. As I said, we have Phil Wilson, Head of Finance and Procurement, Alison Blake from the Internal Auditors, and Philippa from Democratic Services, and also Darren. Is Oliver signing into the meeting tonight, do you know, or is it just yourself?
It's just me, Chair.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Right. The emergency evacuation procedures, I take it you all are aware of those. You don't want me to go through them verbatim? Okay, lovely, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just follow me because I'll be the first one out the door. Okay. That's that done. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies have been received from Councillor Eddie Thomas and also from Councillor James Hall. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Right, moving on then. To approve the minutes of the last meeting held on the 10th of March, minute number 521 to 527. Do you wish me to sign those as a correct record? Thank you, members. I'll do that shortly. Right, the next item. Are there any declarations of interest on any items on the agenda? Lovely, thank you. The items on the agenda are Part B reports for decision by this committee. So we move swiftly on then to agenda item number 4. Alison, I believe that's you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So hopefully everyone can hear me. So this is the Head of Audit's annual opinion on the overall adequacy and effectiveness of the Council's framework of governance, risk management and control as required by the Public Sector Internal Audit Standards. Page 11 sets out the Head of Audit's overall conclusion, which is that sound assurance on internal, which is to give sound assurance on internal control effectiveness, that the corporate governance arrangements comply with the Sit for Solace guidance on proper practices, and that the risk management arrangements for the Council are effective and provide sound assurance. We've completed the work set out in the audit plan approved by this committee in March 2020 and updated to reflect the post-COVID adjustments that we made in September 2020. Page 12 sets out the work that we've done, and we've essentially completed the plan as expected, with the last couple of reports currently being finalised. I can confirm that we've worked independently and free from undue influence of either officers or members. Page 23 sets out how we maintain the quality of our audit work, including implementation of the recommendations from our external quality assessment. One of these recommendations was completion of a new collaboration agreement between our authorities, and our aim is that this agreement will be signed by the end of the year, and we currently have positive discussions with our partners towards this goal. Pages 25 to 26 set out the achievements of our team over the year, and I'd like to particularly highlight that we were shortlisted for the Best Public Sector Audit Team at the Institute of Internal Audit Awards. Unfortunately, Scottish Enterprise took the award home, but it was a massive achievement to have been shortlisted, and my thanks go to all the team, all the internal audit team, for the work that they do. The committee are asked to note the opinion, and we also ask you to note the work underlying the opinion and our assurance that this work was completed independently and in conformance with the standards. I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Alison. Members, any questions for Alison on this report? Councillor Davey.
I don't know if you want me to go through them all in one go. Page 15. On paragraph 36, the fact that there is a worry over the waivers, I believe, in this. So it has written procedures, but just want to know how dangerous the auditors will consider that to be. Do you want the rest of the questions or one at a time? How do you want to do it, Chair?
Did you want to take them one at a time, Alison, or all together?
I can take them one at a time if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, we identified some issues in relation to waivers, that the waivers guidelines in the contract standing orders as they stood at the time weren't entirely being followed, and the council had quite a large number of waivers. So obviously we've implemented or recommended certain controls to address this and to put more scrutiny around the waiver process. And the contract standing orders have been amended, and we're in the process of following up those recommendations now to confirm that the process is more robust.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Chair. Page 19. This is more a procedural question than anything. On paragraph 49, regarding the software for S106, excuse me, why is specific software used? Is there any particular reason that you would use Exacom, or what's the other one, Aggresso? Thank you, Chair.
So Exacom is the Section 106 software that the council uses to capture all of those agreements and to monitor the process for collecting income and spending income. And Aggresso is the council's finance system, so obviously much wider than Section 106. So I mean, it's probably good practice to have a system in place to capture that kind of detail, because Section 106 obviously the agreements have quite a lot of different kind of elements to them, so it makes sense to have that collated in a piece of software that can then also track trigger points and bits and pieces like that.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Chair. And finally, 25, 26. Probably going to preempt a few other people, but congratulations to the staff with their new achievements, and for finishing probably runner-up in the Audit and Risk Awards. My only other question would be on paragraph 80, where you now have 5 of your 12 posts, so almost 50% posts unfilled. How big a worry is this, and what's the time scale you're giving yourselves to fill these posts? Thank you.
Thank you for your compliments. In terms of the vacant posts that we have, so we're currently out to recruit to those posts. The applications are coming in as we speak, so we're hoping obviously to get a good number of applicants that we can put into those posts. In the meantime, we obviously have contractors that we can use, contractor support that we can use. So the money that we're not paying for these posts can go to contractors that we are using to do the audit work that the vacancies are not currently fulfilling. So in that sense, it's not a concern in terms of delivery of the overall plan, because we have other ways of delivering the plan, but obviously better for us to fill those vacancies and have permanent posts, permanent people in post going forward for a longer term.
Thank you, Alison. If I'll just come back on that. Is there a financial implication using outside contractors?
So obviously, yeah, it does cost money. We have a few different contractor routes that we can go down. So we're part of a framework agreement, the managed by Croydon Borough Council, the Apex agreement, and we're also using contractors through the council's matrix supplier. But in terms of the overall audit budget, we're managing that within the budget because obviously we're not paying staff who are currently vacant.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
No worries.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Any further questions for Alison on agenda item 4? Councillor Carnell.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so, yeah, hello, Alison. Page 15, paragraph 39. At the bottom is, however, we found the council lacks central oversight on contracts and their management. Can you explain that, please?
So when we looked at the contract management processes in place, they're quite piecemeal. So each contract is managed by the service relevant to it. So some of them work really well, and some of them could do with improvement. And by in terms of central oversight, we mean a sort of central point within the council that can act as a sort of guidance for that. So we found that could be strengthened to just provide a little bit more consistency across the process and a bit more robustness in that process as well.
Thank you, Alison. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor MacDonald.
Oh, there we are. Yeah, no, doesn't seem to want to. Yeah, I'd just like to ask who the other partners are, council partners in the Mid-Kent audit, because I'm obviously a very young new boy. So I'm not really aware of the other councils that are in the partnership.
Okay, so yeah, we're in a partnership with Ashford, Tunbridge Wells, Maidstone, and obviously yourselves.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you. I think we've got Councillor Burt is on the in the meeting. Good evening, Cameron. Is there any questions you have?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just observing.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Agenda item number 5. That's you again, Alison. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm trying to get the meeting finished. Yeah, we do have the recommendations in front of us. Recommendation 1, the committee notes that the head of audit partnership's opinion. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for that, please?
I propose.
Yes, thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimous. 6. And recommend 2. I won't read it out, but you've got it in front of you there. The committee notes the work, etc. I have a proposer and seconder, please.
I propose.
Thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous 6. Thank you. Right, now, agenda item number 5, please, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, sorry, me again. So this is the annual report which details how the Audit Committee have fulfilled its duties during the year 2020-21. It provides assurance to the Council that the committee has monitored and addressed issues of governance, risk management and internal control as part of its terms of reference, which are outlined on page 33 and in the appendix. Pages 35 and 36 outline the work of the committee during the year and where it has gained its assurance from. The committee can demonstrate that it has appropriately and effectively fulfilled its duties. And the committee are asked to agree the annual report for 2021 and that the chairman of the audit committee will present the report to a meeting of full council. And again, I'm happy to take any questions.
Members, questions? No. Okay. So these ones, the recommendations on page 29, that the Audit Committee Annual Report for 2020-21, Appendix 1 is agreed. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
Propose.
Thank you. All those in favour? And recommend too that the chairman of the Audit Committee presents a report to the next meeting of full council to demonstrate how the committee has discharged its duties. Proposer and a seconder, please.
Propose.
Thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous, 6. Thank you, members. So we now move on to agenda item number 6, the Borough Council Audit Plan, Grant Thornton. Darren, away you go, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm you can hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much. So good evening, members. This paper sets out the results of audit planning and the focus that we will apply to the audit of the financial statements and our responsibilities to consider your arrangements for value for money. What we do is we set the context of the audit in the first few pages of the audit plan. So in your paper pack, it's on pages 41 and 42. We acknowledge the difficult environment that you've been operating in under the pandemic, and particularly the pressure that brings on your financial position. We will look at your arrangements and your update for your financial sustainability as part of our value for money work. We also highlight on these pages that there are some changes to the external environment that impacts and influences the audit. And those are 2 factors. One is a new code of audit practice. And what this seeks to do is to introduce an expanded scope to the value for money and what's expected of auditors, and I will say a little bit more about that shortly. And the second is some new auditing standards, particularly around estimates, and that increases the quantum of work that's expected of auditors to look at those significant estimates, and I'll say a little bit more about that shortly. On page 43, we just set out our consideration of materiality, and you may recall that we use materiality to try and shape and focus where the audit should be directed. What we tend to do is ensure that any transaction or balance or disclosure note that is above our calculation of materiality, we assess and make sure that the information that's presented in the financial statements is complete and accurate. What we can't do is audit everything on 100%. So we focus our effort to where we think the risk of error is greatest. And we set those out on pages 44 and 45. These are labelled as significant risks. The first 2 are very much risks that apply across every local government audit in the country and don't represent anything peculiar or unique to Swale. And in many respects, the 2 significant risks on page 45, the valuation of land and buildings and the valuation of the pension fund net liability, is the same. It's virtually every audit of local government would highlight those 2 risks, and they're chosen because they're complex estimates that require the involvement of your experts to determine them. And given their complexity, we have to spend some time ensuring that they've been arrived at on a reasonable basis. And that links partly to what I mentioned about increased work around accounting estimates. So there has been a drive from the standard setters for auditors to do much more where estimates are involved in the preparation of the financial statements. We're expected to make sure we have a good understanding of how management arrive at those estimates, to test the inputs that drive the estimate, the calculation of the estimate, and where complex models are involved, to make sure we have a working knowledge of that model. So that's what we will be focusing on over the next few months. I mentioned that one of the key changes affecting the audit plan is an increased value for money under the new Code of Audit Practice, and we set out on page 52 of the papers what that new scope means. It moves away from what was an old binary approach to considering value for money, where we only reported on an exception basis. Under the new arrangement, we have to consider your arrangements across the 3 areas that are highlighted on page 52. How you consider your financial sustainability, your arrangements for governance, and the arrangements for achieving economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. Unlike the old system, the new system requires us to document and evaluate your arrangements across those 3 areas, and also to report positively and negatively across all 3. In the past, we just reported by exception where we felt there was a weakness. Now we report across all 3 regardless. What we've set out on page 53 are those areas that we will particularly focus on based on our understanding of your arrangements at Swale. And then the final thing that I was going to pick up. So I've mentioned that we've got a context of increased work through an expanded value for money scope, increased work through changes to auditing standards, particularly for estimates. And unfortunately, that's also resulted in an increased audit fee. And we set out the impact of that on page 55. I will pause there, Chair, and I'm happy to pick up any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Darren. Members? Councillor Davey?
Thank you, Chair. One, I think, if I've misread it, please let me know. Page 51 on the graph, is there a typo? Should that read 78k like it does in the text above the pie chart, in effect? And the other one is page 44, I think. Yeah, on this first ISO UK 240, it reads that that there is already a presumed risk, that there were, in effect, we're guilty in advance unless we can prove otherwise. Is that a correct interpretation of how that's written out? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. So on page 51, I can't quite see what you're highlighting, but I suspect it may well be a typo. So I'm happy to pick that up and correct that going forward. For the estimates, the ISO 240, and for the 2 significant estimates, you're absolutely right, Councillor. The assumption is that because these are complex estimates, because it is not easy to determine how the judgments were made and the estimate calculated, there's a presumption that there's a high risk that they may be calculated wrongly, and therefore we spend more time and effort testing those estimates to ensure that that presumed risk hasn't arisen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the answer, Darren. For your help, it's page 13 of your report, page 51 of ours on the pie chart. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I think it is a typo.
Lovely, thank you. Anything else, members? Any questions? Just one quick one from me, Darren. You'll sort of fairly shortly be starting the audit. When do you think you'll be in a position to present your findings on the 2021 accounts to the committee?
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a very good question. I mean, you will probably be aware from your experience and from what you've heard from officers that there's quite a degree of pressure within the audit market at the moment, and certainly in 1920 across all firms and across the country, delivery of the completion of the audit by the then due date of the end of November was quite low. So I think it was at 45%. Grant Thornton achieved 55% for the 30th of November. This year, the deadline or the target has been set at the 30th of September, which will be challenging. But our intention is to aim for that target for Swale. So that's our intention, to try and aim for the audit findings report and the audit completion by the end of September.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking here because I believe our Democratic Services Officer, or correct me if I'm wrong, our Audit Committee meeting is the 15th of September. Yeah, that's correct. It's the 15th of September. So you're not hopeful that you'll be able to present it to that meeting?
We can certainly try, Chair. It will be a challenge, but we will try.
Would again, I turn to the Democratic Services Officer, because obviously she's got the calendar in front of her, or Billy might have the calendar, whichever. Would it be helpful to yourself if we can possibly schedule it to put the meeting back to as close to the end of September as possible?
Very much so, yes.
I'm looking at members as well. I mean, it's obviously if they can fit it into their diaries. But do we have a date closer to the end of September that we can fit it in, please, Philip?
Looking at my diary, I'd have to double check tomorrow, but it looks like the 30th is free.
30th. We can move it to the 30th, but that would be as far as we could move it back, I'm afraid, Darren. Would that be of help to you?
That certainly would be a help, Chair. Thank you.
Right. Well, if it's so agreed by members, I'm looking around. It seems to be an agreement. We will give you that extra time to the 30th. We'll move the meeting to the 30th. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
You, Philippa. Members. Right. Members, we note agenda item number 6. Agreed. Thank you. And it's you again, Darren. Agenda item number 7, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is, in a way it's me, but in a way it's also management. So what this paper before you is that we each year ask questions of management, labelled very general inquiries of management. We also ask management about the arrangements to prevent and detect fraud. And we ask management about how those major estimates are calculated. What you have before you tonight is the response management have made to those inquiries. And the purpose of presenting the paper to you and to this committee is for you to confirm that the responses that are given by management, as far as you're able, accord with your own understanding of Swale and Swale's approach. So it's very much, if you highlight something that you think is said within the paper that you don't quite, that doesn't resonate with you, it would be useful to understand that. Otherwise, it's the paper's there for you to confirm your understanding. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Darren. Members, questions? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Chair. I've only really got one question on that paper, and that's just a general question of procedure. Obviously, you don't mention the names of the management, which I would fully expect, but do you ask the same positions each year, or do you have to, under the audit rules, ask the 151 officer every year, or do you ask different managers the same questions or similar questions each year? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. So it's not aimed at one specific manager, so it's not necessarily the section 151. We ask the question generally of management, so it's the corporate responsibilities. Management are replying to us corporately, so on behalf of the senior leadership team. There will most likely be one officer that takes the lead on that, and typically that is the section 151 officer, but we don't go out and make separate inquiries of officers.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I believe last year, if I remember correctly, Darren, I was talking to Alison and Phil about this earlier on. I believe when this questionnaire was compiled last year, one was sent to myself as chairman of the committee, asking for my opinions. I'm not touting for work, by the way. I don't want you to send it to me again, but if I remember correctly, I did fill one of those out last year, and that was included in the end of term report, so to speak.
Your memory is absolutely correct, Chair. You did do that. We've just tried to streamline that process this year by asking the questions we have of management and then presenting their response to the whole audit committee, just to try and streamline the process, really. So we don't intend to write out separately to yourself as chair of the committee.
Any further questions, members? Thank you for that, Darren. No, we have no further questions. So, members, if we can note agenda item 7 report. Those in favour? Thank you very much, members. I'd like to thank Alison and Darren for the report, and also pass on my thanks to Rich. Alison, I hope he's enjoying his holiday. Thanks to Billy and Philippa for clerking the meeting tonight. And thank you, Councillor Bett, for attending, even though you were particularly quiet, which I and all that leaves me to do now is to wish you all a good evening and to close the meeting at 19:34. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a safe journey.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.